Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 1099 of Stand Up. Joining me today is the great Sam Youngman of my favorite daily newsletter, Today's Big Stuff, and Los Angeles Magazine, where he's now the executive editor of digital there and writing really great stuff over there as well. Sam is brilliant and hilarious, and we run through all of the news, all of it, I'm telling you, in about 20 minutes. That conversation starts at 27 minutes into today's show, after I've gone through the headlines and shared a few audio clips with you. Thank you, as always, for your feedback on the show. You guys have been really kind this week. I had to take yesterday off because I bit off a little more than I could chew when I was moderating this amazing group of people for 2 days in the National Conservation Training Center as part of the Climate and Democracy Initiative sponsored by the great David Orr, who's joined me several times here on the show, of course, and we had some amazing folks down there. Scientists from the government, journalists like Anya Kamenetz, who I invited, and so many other great people. What a wonderful experience I had with these folks who I'm calling the Climate Avengers. We are the ones we've been waiting for and trying to find solutions to really the hardest problems in the world around climate. Great stuff, and I hope to share more from the conference as well as bring people on that I met and maybe even do a series dedicated to the group that I work with. That's how great of an experience it was. I'll share pictures of both that and my experience, the other amazing group I got to speak with, the Maryland Education Support Professionals, part of the big Maryland Educators Teachers Union there, the Maryland State Education Association. Shout out to my friend Sean McKillop, who's a longtime listener and subscriber. Very, very awesome to have him bring me down there. And Steve Chase brought me back to the National Conservation Training Center. I tell you, the community that is Stand Up, simply amazing. So many really smart, passionate, kind, generous people that I've gotten to know, many of which are doing such great and impactful work in so many different ways, and had the great opportunity to work with that make up our community. If you're not a member, you should join us and hang out with us tonight. It's Thursday, and like almost every Thursday, I'll be hosting Hangout tonight a little after 8 p.m. Julia has a lacrosse game, and I'm not going to leave early to hang out with you scoundrels. No, I love you, and maybe I'll be there by 8, but probably a little bit closer to 8:15 I'll be hanging out. But look for the link to open around 8, and I will see you tonight if you're listening on Thursday the 9th. But let's get to those headlines and sound clips I've got for you right now. All right, where should we start? How about this? The Georgia Court of Appeals will hear an appeal of a ruling that allowed Fani Willis, the district attorney in Fulton County, to continue leading the prosecution of the disgraced former President Trump on charges related to election interference. They announced this yesterday. The decision to hear the appeal issued by a 3-judge panel is all but certain to delay the Georgia criminal case against Trump and 14 of his allies, making it less likely to go to trial before a November election. Legal experts said it may take months for the appellate court to hear the case and issue a ruling. That's terrible news. Just terrible news out of Georgia. The disgraced former president securing yet another win in bids to slow criminal prosecutions. And, of course, it doesn't hurt when you point certain judges and later on they turn out to be in judgment of you. Trump's classified documents trial has been blown apart by Judge Aileen Cannon, who, of course, he appointed in charge of the Florida prosecution. He's repeatedly given Trump's team exactly what it wants. I've got, I think, 3 pieces of audio for you, analysis on Aileen Cannon and her judgment here, but my great friend Steve Bannon over at MSNBC writes, Roy Cohn was known for saying, "Don't tell me what the law is, tell me who the judge is." Watching Judge Aileen Cannon in the classified documents case, that quote keeps coming to mind. Stephen Beschloss writes, Donald Trump is a national security danger and Judge Aileen Cannon is complicit. Mary Trump says the reason Donald keeps getting away with his crimes is because people like his personal pocket, Judge Aileen Cannon, are there to help him every step of the way. And there's a petition to remove her that's got over 300,000 signatures on it. We'll see if that goes anywhere and if the Jack Smith or whoever would be in charge of demanding she get taken off the case, get recused from the case if that goes anywhere. I don't quite understand how that works or what the precedent is for it, but I'll bring you more analysis on that coming up. But Aileen Cannon, Trump's catch and kill judge, is what a lot of people, I think, are saying. In other news and other headlines, Vladimir Putin began his fifth term at a glittering Kremlin inauguration yesterday, embarking on another 6 years as leader of Russia after destroying his political opponents, launching a devastating war in Ukraine, and concentrating all his power in his hands. At the ceremony in the gilded Grand Kremlin Palace, Putin placed his hand on the Russian constitution, vowed to defend it as a crowd of hand-picked dignitaries looked on. And in a somewhat related story, this White House cares about the opposition to Russia, mainly NATO. President Biden hosted the president of Romania yesterday, Klaus Ioannis? I don't know. Anyway, the president of Romania was with President Biden yesterday at the White House. The two leaders celebrated their joint cooperation on issues including international security, the economy, and continued support for Ukraine. The meeting in the Oval Office was meant to mark Romania's 2 decades as a NATO member, according to the White House. And speaking of Trump-appointed judges, a federal judge in Arkansas has ruled that Arkansas cannot prevent 2 high school teachers from discussing critical race theory in the classroom. He stopped short of more broadly blocking the state from enforcing its ban on indoctrination into public schools. This is, of course, a Sarah Huckabee Sanders joint. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday tried to oust House Speaker Mike Johnson. She failed, further embarrassing herself, if you thought that was even possible. General Motors said it would stop making the Chevrolet Malibu and focus more on EVs and SUVs. In Florida, state lawmakers voted to outlaw intentionally letting go of balloons, which I think is really good news. In an effort to curb microplastics and marine pollution, state lawmakers voted to ban intentional releases. Isn't that good? Isn't Florida legislature doing something good? Championed by environmentalists, sponsored by 2 Republican lawmakers from the Tampa Bay area, who said balloons contribute to the increase in microplastic pollution, which is harmful to every living thing, including humans, polluting our air and drinking our water. My hope is that this bill changes the culture, making people more aware of litter in general, including balloons. But the big story yesterday, maybe not the most important one, but certainly one that captured the attention of, well, all of us, was that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. apparently said that doctors found a dead worm in his brain. I'll talk about that more with Sam Youngman. But man, it was a lot of fun on social media yesterday. Kennedy, of course, pitched himself as this younger, healthier alternative to Biden and Trump, but the New York Times obtained a 2012 deposition where RFK Jr. admitted that a, quote, worm got into my brain and ate a portion of it and then died. That's what he testified about his own worm brain. So if you thought the weirdest news was that the former disgraced president was getting smacked in the ass with a magazine by a porn star who reminds him of his daughter, but then you heard the announcement that RFK Jr. has a brain-eating worm, you might not be able to take it anymore, and I understand. Our friend Kevin Richburg texted me yesterday and said, I can't deal with the madness anymore. Fiction writers around the world are collectively thinking, you've got to be kidding. Went on to say, people who have had their brain eaten by worms can still be president. Is either the end of discrimination, terminating all glass ceilings now and forever, or a little-known component of the rapture. Always love his commentary and hope that we'll see him tonight at the Hangout for more of that. Again, I'll revisit that issue with Sam Youngman coming up. All right, those are your headlines. Let's see. What have I got for you sound-wise? Let's start with President Biden's speech at the Holocaust Remembrance Ceremony. He condemned a, quote, ferocious surge of anti-Semitism in the United States following the October 7th Hamas attack against Israel, and said people are already forgetting the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. Here's about 2 minutes of President Biden's powerful speech yesterday.
Never forget. Never forgetting means we must keep telling the story. We must keep teaching the truth. Must keep teaching our children and our grandchildren. And the truth is, we're at risk of people not knowing the truth. That's why growing up, my dad taught me and my siblings about the horrors of the Shoah at our family dinner table. That's why I visited Yad Vashem with my family as a senator, as vice president, as president. And that's why I took my grandchildren to Dachau, so they could see and bear witness to the perils of indifference, the complicity of silence in the face of evil that they knew was happening. Germany, 1933, Hitler and his Nazi party rise to power by rekindling one of the world's oldest forms of prejudice and hate, anti-Semitism. His rule didn't begin with mass murder. It started slowly across economic, political, social, and cultural life. Propaganda demonizing Jews, boycotts of Jewish businesses, synagogues defaced with swastikas, harassment of Jews in the street and in the schools, anti-Semitic demonstrations, pogroms, organized riots. With the indifference of the world, Hitler knew he could expand his reign of terror by eliminating Jews from Germany, to annihilate Jews across Europe through genocide, the Nazis called the final solution. Concentration camps, gas chambers, mass shootings. By the time the war ended, 6 million Jews, 1 out of every 3 Jews in the entire world, were murdered. This ancient hatred of Jews didn't begin with the Holocaust. It didn't end with the Holocaust either, or even after our victory in World War II. This hatred continues to lie deep in the hearts of too many people in the world.
President Biden yesterday at the Holocaust Museum. And now let's get to some of that analysis around the news that the judge in the classified documents case, Aileen Cannon, appointed by Donald Trump, indefinitely postponed the classified documents trial. Let's start with Chris Hayes' commentary. He called it a scandal in this minute and a half from him on MSNBC last night.
The problem becomes what to do about it. And the only answer I can come back to, and I thought about this a lot at the human level, is shame, norms. Because in the end, remember, that's what saved us the last time around. I mean, yes, the law helped, right? But again, if the DOJ had bent to Trump's will, if there had been 3 or 4 lawyers atop that Department of Justice who were willing to send a letter basically claiming there was widespread voter fraud, or if Mike Pence had agreed to throw out the electors from swing states Biden won, if his lawyers had advised him he could do that, I don't know. No one knows what would have happened in the end. All we've got are individual people formed by the norms and institutions they're embedded in, making decisions, hopefully coming to the right conclusions and acting in good faith, or at the very least, bowing to some sense of public pressure or shame not to do the wrong thing. So in this case, the least we can do now is state plainly and openly that what Trump-appointed Judge Aileen Cannon is doing is a scandal. When our judges don't act in good faith, when they work only to weaponize the judiciary in an effort to achieve a desired outcome, we are in very dangerous territory. That's especially true with Donald Trump effectively running to finish the job he started on January 6th, a job that can only be completed if the judiciary allows itself to be corrupted. And right now, the signs are not promising.
The signs are not promising indeed, Chris Hayes last night. Also on MSNBC, one of the best legal analysts out there, one of the sharpest minds, one of the most, I think, articulate people on TV is Lisa Rubin. Here's what she had to say.
Yesterday was no surprise. I can't underscore how little of surprise it was. It was more surprising that Stormy Daniels got on the stand and said that she had sex with Donald Trump than it was that Aileen Cannon postponed her trial date. She has a number of motions that have even yet to be scheduled that are required under the Classified Information Procedures Act. She has a number of pending motions that have been fully briefed for months now on which she has made no decision. I wouldn't venture a guess at when this case would be ready for trial, and I believe that's by design. I continue to be disappointed by Aileen Cannon and her execution of the role of federal jurist here. But I also think, based on some reporting from David Latt, that this is a judge who is overwhelmed and is second-guessing herself at every corner. She seems to be overwhelmed with anxiety about the import of the case. And so a combination of insecurity in your own decisions, the gravity of the case before you, and maybe also some inclination to slow walk where you don't have trust in yourself, that's a toxic brew. And we're all drinking it right now.
Oh, we're all drinking the toxic brew. Lisa Rubin sounding pretty negative about it as well. And now here is the disgraced former president's ex-White House lawyer, Ty Cobb, the guy with the weird mustache. He always goes on CNN with Aaron Burnett for some reason. I thought his analysis is worth sharing as well because, well, he is Trump's former White House lawyer.
Yeah, this is a remarkable misunderstanding of the applicable law. It's embarrassing. You know, she's been struggling so dramatically in this case ever since the start when she was she butchered the special master decision and the 11th Circuit took her to task for it. This is a totally baffling position. First, she appears to believe that the Presidential Records Act is actually consequential in the case, which it is not. This is an Espionage Act case. This is not a Presidential Records Violation Act case. This is the theory that Trump has the ability to designate classified material as personal records is absurd on its face. There is no legal support for that, but she has put Jack Smith in a position of trying to draft jury instructions in advance that would posit that question to the jury. I think that, you know, it is such a fundamental error, and it is so reflective of bias that it does provide a basis, you know, not a dispositive basis, but it does provide a basis for seeking her recusal. I know that former Massachusetts District Court Judge Nancy Gertner, who's very highly regarded by her colleagues and lawyers, you know, had the same reaction that I had, and I saw some reporting today where she was suggesting that they seek to recuse her on this basis as well, pointing out that, you know, she's just ignoring a raft of equally absurd motions as well, you know, persistently delaying this case. So, you know, a month ago, she ordered the identities of witnesses to be disclosed, and Jack Smith pointed out to her that that was just not allowable. You know, she has decided to dismiss the vagueness challenge to the statute, but to the Espionage Act statute, but has suggested that, you know, it might be something that would be addressed in jury instructions at a time where jeopardy would already have been attached and the government would have no remedy. It's really remarkable, some of the things that she's done that are just fundamentally unhinged.
Well, there you go. Trump's former White House lawyer himself saying that this judge is fundamentally unhinged. So a great roundup of analysis there. And this clip made a lot of noise yesterday. This is the Christian Nationalist House Speaker Mike Johnson saying that we know intuitively that a lot of illegals are voting in federal elections, but it's been something that's easily provable. We just don't have that number.
So actually, on the first question, I mean, the answer is that it's unanswerable. That is the problem. States are not allowed right now to prove, if somebody claims on that simple form that they're a citizen, they can vote. They're not allowed to prove whether it's true or not. We all know intuitively that a lot of illegals are voting in federal elections, but it's not been something that is easily provable. We don't have that number. This legislation will allow us to do exactly that. It will prevent that from happening. And if someone tries to do it, it will now be unlawful, and the states will have a mechanism to prove whether they are or not. And to suggest that this is some sort of revenge tour is kind of a silly notion.
It's not a silly notion. They just keep making laws to prevent things that are not happening. It's outrageous that they are trying to pass this law, which will go nowhere, of course. But it's worse than Giuliani's claim about having theories but no evidence of voter fraud. He says intuition. What did he get, a palm reader? I mean, this is a rich commentary from the House Speaker. They're now attacking our democracy with vibes, with feelings. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene initiating the motion, by the way, to vacate Mike Johnson, and she's booed in the House by Republicans and Democrats.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Georgia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I seek recognition to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows. Declaring the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives to be vacant. This is the uniparty for the American people watching.
Gentlelady will suspend.
Yes.
Order.
That's how it sounded yesterday, and the effort failed. 32 Democrats, 11 Republicans did vote to advance the effort. 7 voted present, but the vote in the end was 359 to 43. 196 Republicans voted to kill it. 163 Democrats voted to kill it. And speaking of the House, Congressman Chip Roy is really crazy, but he's probably smarter than this. He realizes, however, his own voters aren't. And this is what he said yesterday, screaming, panicking, and acting.
I mean, is anybody paying attention to what's happening in London? I'm going to say it here on the floor of the House to get the scorn of people when I say you've got a massive Muslim takeover of the United Kingdom going on right before our eyes. He would say, Chip, well, what is wrong with that? Well, I've got some pretty strong concerns about Sharia law and whether that'll be forced upon the American people. In this case, the people of the United Kingdom.
Well, I'll have to look into the Muslims are taking over the United Kingdom accusation there. Yesterday, House Republicans clashed with public schools over anti-Semitism claims. Politicians and educators, they said, had not done enough. But the New York chancellor testified, chancellor of schools, and said that House members were trying to elicit gotcha moments rather than stop anti-Semitism. Here's a little bit of David Banks, the New York City schools chancellor, yesterday.
Anti-Semitism rears its head. I believe we must respond, and we have. We have removed, disciplined, or are in the process of disciplining at least a dozen staff and school leaders, including removing a principal in the middle of a school year. We have suspended at least 30 students.
Here's a little bit more from the chancellor's testimony yesterday.
Here's the challenge. Okay. These things don't always come down to so clear yes and no. I'll give you an example. We had a school where a teacher hung up a map of the Middle East that eliminated Israel from the map. So the question is that anti-Semitic? To me, that's anti-Semitic. And we had it removed. But others have said, did you fire her? She said, essentially, I made a mistake. I didn't intend it to be anti-Semitic, and she had a reason for it.
And here's just a little bit more. The Republican chairman asking the witnesses that were testifying, this.
Mr. Banks, does Israel have the right to exist as a Jewish state?
Absolutely.
Ms. Silvestri?
Yes, absolutely.
Ms. Ford-Marthel?
Yes.
Is the phrase from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, is that anti-Semitic?
I think most Jewish people experience that as anti-Semitic, and as such, it is not allowed in our schools.
You would say it is?
I would say it's anti-Semitic.
Ms. Silvestri?
It is if the intent is the destruction of the Jewish people, yes.
And it is? And it is. And so I would say I'd put you down as a yes. You're okay with that? A yes?
Yes.
Ms. Ford-Marthel? It's a yes or you can just go yes or no.
It is if it is calling for the elimination of the Jewish people in Israel. And I will also say that I recognize that it does have different meaning to different members of our community.
I'm going to go yes. I'll put you down as yes. I got a boogie because 5 minutes goes by so fast.
Ah, what a dipshit. Okay, well, that's what I've got for you in audio. Either then, some joke, some comedy. What should we do? Let's go to Jimmy Kimmel on ABC News and then Stephen Colbert on CBS. Let's do them both. How about it? I think you deserve it.
It was a day off for the Trump trial today, which has been a lot of fun so far, I have to say. Don Corleone's Hush Money Honey, Stormy Daniels, took the stand yesterday and caused quite a commotion. Stormy yesterday went into a bit more detail about their sexual encounter than the president and his legal team were hoping she would. Sadly, there are no cameras allowed in the courtroom, so we've had to rely on sketches and transcripts for the news. At one point, while Stormy was recounting the story about spanking Trump with the Forbes magazine, Judge Merchan pulled one of his lawyers aside to issue a warning after Trump appeared to mutter bull S-word under his breath. Judge said he chose to speak to the lawyer privately so as not to embarrass Trump, who's on trial for chub humping a porn star while his wife was home with their infant son. I'm pretty sure the embarrassment cat is out of the golf bag already, and while all this was happening, they were holding a primary election in Indiana. Obviously, Trump won on the Republican side because he's the only Republican running. But once again, a lot of votes were cast for Nikki Haley, who dropped out 2 months ago. Nikki Haley disappeared at the beginning of the March, and she still took home more than 20% of the vote, which means either a large chunk of Indiana voters are not planning to vote for Trump, or Mike Pence voted 128,000 times. Trump used his one day off from the trial today to focus on his pyramid scheme. He hosted a VIP dinner at Mar-a-Lago for the Stupor fans who bought his NFTs. To get an invite, you had to buy all 47 of Trump's NFTs at $99 a pop. I tell you, I would hate to be his assistant this morning. Sarah, a reminder, tonight you have to eat with the freaks who paid $4,700 for pictures of you wearing Superman tights and a cape, okay? Some of these lemonheads paid $10,000 for the honor of having the former president fart on them in person, but...
All right, well, let's get over to CBS The Late Show, the Ed Sullivan Theater. Let's hear what Colbert's take was on all of this.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, down here, up there, out there to The Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. It was an historic day in the annals of American law because this morning, Stormy Daniels took the stand to do what she does best, and that's spank Donald Trump. The fireworks started before the court was even called to order, right? Because at 7:30 a.m., Trump put up this now-deleted post. I have just recently been told, who is the witness today? This is unprecedented. No time for lawyers to prepare. No judge has ever run a trial in such a biased and partisan way. Wait a second. No time. Did you just say no time to prepare? It did not occur to you or your lawyers that the Stormy Daniels hush money trial might involve an appearance by Stormy Daniels? That's like a cook at Burger King saying, oh my God, someone ordered a Whopper. What do we do? I had all these kale Caesars ready to go.
All right. Very funny. Good stuff from Kimmel and Colbert. And now it's time to get to the very funny and brilliant Sam Youngman. Sam, of course, is the co-writer of my favorite daily newsletter. If you're not subscribed to Today's Big Stuff, you are missing out, folks. He's a veteran D.C. campaign reporter. He worked for several big media outlets back in the day, but now he's out as a professor of political science in California, and he's also the executive digital editor now at Los Angeles Magazine, and he's pumping out all kinds of great articles every day there. I've linked to it today's show notes, as well as, of course, the newsletter, which you should subscribe to. I love Sam Youngman. I wanted to catch up with him because I missed out on what's been happening the last couple of days, and nobody does it better. Love, love, love this. Let's do it right now. Go let him know you heard him here. Sam Youngman, Today's Big Stuff. Sir, thank you very much for talking to me. I was away for a couple days from the news, so I checked out the last couple of days of Today's Big Stuff, and I'm all up to date. I'm laughing, and I feel replenished. Thank you.
And your ears aren't hurting from all the wild profanity and all that good stuff?
No, I love it. Bring it all to me. Pour it into my ears. It's very satisfying for me. I love what you do each and every day, and I'm happy to talk to you about it. Let's just start with the kind of easier, maybe less impactful, but still, important headlines. And that's the governor of South Dakota. She's completely unraveled. She was clearly auditioning for a shot at the vice president. I don't think she got it, Sam. What do you think? Is she done?
I mean, I think by traditional political rules, shooting a puppy in the face would be disqualifying, yes. But we're talking about Donald Trump, so I don't know. I put it at 50-50 odds. As far as we know, this might have made her gone up in his estimation. The man famously hates dogs. Poor Cricket is the first casualty of the 2024 election. It's you hate to see it. We just hope we can keep Kristi Noem away from all other dogs and small children.
It seems like that really is like crossing the line that even the craziest right-wing MAGA Republicans are maybe not okay with. I mean, she might have hurt her entire political career, much less her chances at VP doing that.
I mean, you'd hope so, but, I would have thought the same thing about supporting people who attack the U.S. Capitol and smear their shit on the walls. So, in terms of standards, I'm not real sure where we are these days.
You always have the best perspective and make very fair points just when I think I've got them. So we've got that. That's a bad Republican. Let's do good Republican. Jeff Duncan. Talk to me about this guy. He's gone. What did you call it? He's pulled a Liz Cheney, I think you said.
Yeah, he's gone Liz Cheneying. Which, by the way, it will never stop being weird to me to be in a world where I'm saying nice things about Liz Cheney. Right. It's endlessly strange. Hating Kanye and loving Liz Cheney. It's what Trump has done to America. Jeff Duncan, former lieutenant governor of Georgia. He's doing what other Republicans won't. He's actually standing up for himself and showing a little self-respect. And he told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution this week in an op-ed that he's going to be voting for Joe Biden. said he does not think Donald Trump should be trusted with the White House again. And I got to say, I agree with him.
It really is important, I think, for certain Republicans to come out. I don't know if it makes a difference with voters anywhere, but it is nice to see, to say the least, because they just get called, all kinds of names, and they get drummed out of the movement, the cult.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we wonder if it makes a difference. And I've wondered that for a while, the whole Mitt Romney of it all. You wonder just how many Republicans are left that are actually, following the lead of somebody like that and what has clearly become a Trump cult. But then you look at the results this week from the Indiana Republican primary where, 130,000 votes, 22% of the electorate voted for Nikki Haley. And Nikki Haley is vacationing on like Jupiter. Like she just completely disappeared off the face of the earth. Now, these are clear protest votes against Trump. Is it enough for me to put my hope and all my eggs in that basket for November? Absolutely not. But it is a very real thing.
All right, let's go back to bad Republicans. Marjorie Taylor Greene is mostly hated by the world, certainly even a lot of Republicans, far right-wing Republicans who are conspiracy theorists, even insurrectionists, some of them in the House. I mean, she lost Lauren Boebert, her wing woman, a long time ago, it would seem. But she is really trying to get rid of Mike Johnson, and she's trying to defund Jack Smith's investigation. I learned from your newsletter, of course, she's not going to be able to do that. They might vote for that in the House, but it's not going to pass in the Senate, much less get to President Biden ever. Nonetheless, what do you make of the deal that she might be making and the vote that they took to table the whole motion today?
Yeah, well, I was going to say there was big news on this front just a few minutes before we started recording. Marge brought her, Marjorie Taylor Gross, as we call her in today's big stuff. She brought her motion to vacate to the House floor and was roundly booed by just about everybody in the room. There was a motion to table, and it passed overwhelmingly thanks to Democrats who bailed MAGA Mike Johnson's ass out. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's motion went down with only 11 Republicans supporting it. This did not go well for her. Between her and Kristi Noem, it has not been a good week for batshit crazy Republicans. Mike Johnson's hoping this is the end of it. The funniest part about this to me is Donald Trump put out a statement on Truth Social praising Marjorie Taylor Greene and saying, we're not going to do the motion to vacate yet. It's like, he could have gone out a little bit further to help the Speaker of the House, but he didn't want to go too far. He wants to make sure he's keeping some leverage over Mike Johnson. Probably so Mike can, throw the election to him when he loses in November.
I didn't know that, and that is why right there. He's got to keep him on his side. If he's the Speaker of the House, he needs him. He needs his allyship, I think. We also learned that
I think that's right.
Donald Trump was complaining, the disgraced former president, to the judge and anybody who would listen, that he's not able to travel to see his son's graduation. Turns out he actually is able to travel and see his son's graduation, but he's not going. Is that right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, well, we're not sure if he's going or not. This could be a little bit like Taylor Swift performing in Japan and then getting home to see Travis Kelce play in the Super Bowl. It's possible Trump could still get to his son's high school graduation and do a dinner fundraiser in Minnesota. But if I had to guess, I'd say he's probably not going to do both because I think Taylor loves Travis more than Trump loves Barron. And the flip side, the other part of that is, every day we hear Trump whine and complain when he's not farting about how he's not allowed to be out campaigning in swing states. And, well, he had a day off from court today. So which swing state was he in? Florida. Yeah, he was doing an event for the people who bought those ridiculous NFTs of him as a comic book hero.
Oh, really?
I swear, I wish I could make this up, but I really can't.
So he was in Florida today? I thought he was in court today. I wasn't paying attention.
No. Wednesdays are his day off.
Oh, right. That's right. Today is Wednesday. But let's
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, humiliation. Wednesdays, he takes the day off.
Monday, Tuesday, humiliation. Wednesday. Okay, so let's speak of
not so happy days.
Not so happy days. Let's speak of the Stormy affair. Stormy Daniels showing up in court, and I don't know. I read some punditry that the prosecutors may have made a mistake by having her testify because on cross-examination, Trump's defense lawyers maybe took her apart and showed how much she hates Donald Trump and is not going to pay apparently a fine that she owes him from a lawsuit that didn't go right or something. Like what's your analysis, or what is your aggregate of the analysis on her testimony and her showing up?
I've watched the Supreme Court, Judge Cannon, and now a Georgia judge hand out free passes to Donald Trump. So Stormy Daniels wants to sit in a courtroom and tell everybody how much she hates Trump. I'm okay with that. That may be the closest we get to accountability from a broken, fucked up legal system before this election. In terms of analysis of the testimony, I don't know. Who knows with the jury? Was it salacious? Yeah. But you know what? So was the affair. People weren't so, freaked out and precious about these kind of details when it was Bill Clinton or literally any other politician in American history. But with Trump, who flaunts this sort of behavior, we're supposed to look the other way. Yeah, I don't know. I say go Stormy. Let her tell her story wherever she wants to.
Let's talk about, you mentioned Aileen Cannon, the judge who's overseeing, the federal judge who's overseeing the classified documents case, I think we refer to it as. She has put that on the shelf. You're very upset, according to your newsletter, as are all of us. But
well, I think America should be upset. Donald Trump stole our national secrets. He kept them in an unsecure location. And we're not even going to find out what he took or what he did with it before this election. It seems to me like that's the kind of shit voters should know. But, there again, I didn't write 4 million stories about Hillary Clinton's emails, so maybe I don't have a leg to stand on here.
And what's going on in Georgia? They're trying to get Fani Willis off the case. And I saw a lot of people talking about that, but I'm not quite sure what the development is.
Yeah, well, so the judge ruled that she could stay on the case as long as Nathan Robinson, one of the two of them, left the case. Now the judge has said that they can't appeal this case. Trump's going to keep pushing forward. This does throw it into question whether or not this will even go to trial before the election, just like the other ones. And justice delayed is justice denied, right? Isn't that what they say?
Justice delayed is justice denied, and this justice is definitely being delayed. Really?
Yeah. It makes me want to get one of those brain worms that RFK Jr. has.
Oh, that's where I was going next. You beat me to it. First, I found out from your
I couldn't resist
your great newsletter. First, I found out that the great actor, such a great actor, maybe not a good man, Kevin Spacey, has endorsed RFK. I think he's got a lot of weird celebrity endorsements. And is he married to an actress as well?
Cheryl Hines.
Cheryl Hines, yeah.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, yeah.
So yesterday we learned of the endorsements. He's on the ballot in California. He's on the ballot, more importantly, in Michigan. It's getting scary. And then we learned today that a worm ate his brain. And I haven't gotten caught up yet necessarily on it. But is this a real thing? Is that a thing that can happen? What do we know?
It's apparently a real thing that did happen. A worm ate his brain. And nobody seems really that surprised.
It's the least surprising development, I feel like, in this.
Yeah, no, I actually kind of feel comforted. Like after years and years of news that didn't make sense to me, this was like, oh, yeah, I can see that.
Well, he seems to be in pretty good physical shape otherwise, besides the brain that got eaten.
Yeah, aside from the whole brain thing, I'm sure he's doing great. The New York Times basically did a rundown on his overall health and discovered that he's had mercury poison from eating a fish-only diet. He's had years and years of heart ailments, and which are not uncommon. The guy's out at Muscle Beach in Venice, lifting weights, and the whole time there's a worm eating his brain.
By the way, can we still say that Mike Collins, the congressman from Georgia, made a real bad tweet when he wrote, "You either die a Kennedy with a hole in the brain or live long enough to become a Kennedy with a hole in the brain." Now, I don't like RFK Jr. at all, but I don't like that either. What do you think?
I wrote about this for LA Magazine today, and basically I just said there's always one asshole who takes it too far. And that was Mike Collins. He just flat out ruined a great day America was having. We were the most unified we've been since September 11th. We were all protecting dogs and booing Marjorie Taylor Greene and laughing about brain worms. And then this fucker comes along and has to make it gross. And, what can you say? A Trump Republican's always going to ruin things.
How much do you think we should be talking about covering RFK's campaign? I mentioned where he's on the ballot. That's not all the states, but I think Michigan is the one that's most disconcerting, and how he got on the ballot is pretty weird. But nonetheless, he is apparently, and maybe he'll stay, maybe he won't, maybe they'll be able to sue to get him off. But how much do you think about that? Who do you think he takes more from, Trump or Biden?
I don't think we have the luxury of guessing. I don't think we have running on polls and saying, gosh, I hope he makes more for Trump, or ignoring him and hope he goes away. I think we've got to treat him like we would any other opponent and define him for the public. Let the American voters know the crazy shit he believes in and has done. Otherwise he's coasting on a Kennedy name and an electorate that isn't enamored with either of the two major party candidates. So yeah, treat him like a real candidate. And I don't mean that in a good way.
I've just seen a news update. RFK Jr.'s campaign says the worm that ate part of his brain will not affect his ability to serve as president.
Well, that's good. I don't know that Trump can say the same.
and we don't know of any worms in his brain.
Well, that's what the crazy thing about the Times story is. It got this information from a 2012 deposition. And RFK is on record saying things like, oh, yeah, I have lessened cognitive ability. Yeah, it's hurt my short-term, long-term memory. And so they had to come out today and put out a statement saying, well, actually, his memory's fine. I guess the worm got full.
Oh, that's a good one. Have you tweeted that yet? That's very funny.
I have not. It's all yours.
I may steal that. Okay, I want to ask you about some good news. It seems like, there's some polling that we act like we don't talk about or pay attention to, except we do a little bit. You mentioned it in I think yesterday or today's newsletter. And it's Wednesday, so the New York Times says President Biden and Vice President Harris are campaigning. President Biden spent his afternoon in Wisconsin, where he announced Microsoft is going to build a major AI data center there. Vice President Kamala Harris was also out campaigning. She spoke in the Philadelphia suburbs about, guess what, abortion access. And apparently this is the Wednesday Standard. It's the day off for Trump's Manhattan trial. So the White House and Biden campaign have sought to cut off his chances of driving the news by sending the president and vice president to get voters' attention. Good strategy?
Yeah, I think so. Before I tell you about what the president was doing, or talk about what the president was doing today, I have to say Vice President Harris was with one of my favorite actors today, Cheryl Lee Ralph, from Abbott Elementary. If you're not watching that show, Pete, you've got to, because it is fantastic. And Cheryl Lee Ralph is hilarious on it. Biden right now is running the kind of campaign that I absolutely love. I would call it an FU campaign. Today, the president was in Racine, Wisconsin, announcing a $3.3 billion Microsoft plant that's going to bring jobs to Wisconsin. And where was it? Oh, yeah, it was at that place where the Foxconn plant was supposed to be, the $10 billion Foxconn plant that Donald Trump announced with Senator Ron Johnson that was supposed to bring all these jobs to Wisconsin, and turned out to be total horseshit. So, Trump talks about creating jobs. Biden actually does it.
Yeah, he certainly does. And you can look at the economy by almost every measure. Although I think, who was it that said, I think it was Tim Scott. Did you want to say anything about Tim Scott or Doug Burgum's audition? I'm sure you wrote about it. I think I might have missed today's big stuff on Monday. I just went back to the past 48 hours to get clued in. But Tim Scott said Americans can't wait for President Trump to return to the White House and get control of wild inflation, because somehow he's going to do that.
Yeah, Tim Scott also refused to say 6 times when asked if he would accept the 2024 election results. So I'm not buying a whole lot of what Tim Scott is selling these days, because if he doesn't even believe in basic American shit like accepting election results, then why would I listen to him about anything else?
Fair to say, he's really going for it. It was really pathetic to see him saying that.
I don't know if you can hear that dog barking. I think he heard us talking about cricket and got very upset.
I didn't hear him, but now I feel very concerned that he knows about cricket.
Oh, they all know.
They're all talking.
They talk about it at the dog water cooler.
There's been a lot of developments in the Middle East over the past few days, and there was a ceasefire on the table. Apparently, Netanyahu turned it down, and then they're bombing parts of southern Gaza, Rafah, it's called, and the Biden administration is doing all they can, it would seem, to try to negotiate something. What do you want to say about the mess in the Middle East?
Yeah, well, I am never more out of my depth than I am when discussing this topic. But I can tell you the latest is that just before we started recording, Joe Biden sat down for an interview with CNN today, and he told CNN's Aaron Burnett that the U.S. is not going to supply any more bombs or ammunition to Israel if Israel goes into Rafah. So I think, you're seeing the most clear effort from the Biden administration to sort of rein this in a little bit. You're seeing, protests all over the country. Younger voters are really sort of souring on the Biden administration. Macklemore's writing rap songs about it. So I think, you're seeing, and really, let's be honest, from the very beginning, Joe Biden was calling for restraint. I think I've told you this, I think I've said this to you before, but to me, one of the smartest things I've heard anybody say since October 7th was when Joe Biden went to Israel and he said, don't do what we did after September 11th. Right now the world is unified behind you. Don't do what we did. Yep. And then so far, I think you could make the case that that's exactly what Israel has done. I get it. I mean, I really do. I get the fury after it happened on October 7th. But I think it's safe to say that in a lot of ways, Israel is losing public support, losing that international backing. And I think that Bibi Netanyahu has really forced President Biden's hand here.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a cogent point. It's such an important point. I think about that all the time. America's reaction after 9/11 and how we really, I was going to say blew it, but it's such an understatement. Yeah. We invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, but more importantly, Iraq on a lie, and destroyed millions of people's lives, killed hundreds of thousands of people, and more importantly, in my opinion, destroyed a good portion of a generation of great men and women, veterans of America lives as well. The suicide rate of that generation is still frighteningly high. And, it's such a good point to mention that parallel, 9/11 and October 7th. So I'm glad you mentioned that. All right. Well, finally, just two pop culture things. Do I need to know anything about Drake and Kendrick? I don't know. Is that just fake? They're beefing. Do I care? Does it matter?
I think it's real, but I'm too old to know.
Yeah, okay.
The last beef I really remember was when Eazy-E and Dre went at it, and he's been dead for like 20 years, so I may not be your guy on this one.
How about the other one is you wrote about the WNBA. I learned this from today's big stuff, is going to start chartering flights for their teams. The league is exploding with popularity, and they should be treated like it, you say, according to the Associated Press. Also, I heard that, I don't follow it closely, but apparently they didn't televise one of the new stars, Angel Reese. Yeah. But yet somebody like streamed it on his phone, and it got like 500,000 views on like one guy's phone. Do I have that right? Do you know about that?
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the thing is the viewers are there. The supporters are there. It's these major media companies that are slow to catch up. Like Caitlin Clark, I wrote this story yesterday. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, the WNBA team that drafted her, they're playing the LA Sparks out here in the last week of May. And the Sparks just moved their game from the Pyramid at Long Beach State University to the Crypto.com arena so they can fit in more fans. The demand is there. People want to watch this. I mean, you look at what the March Madness games did. They shattered TV records. And if you're a basketball fan, you don't want to miss this because it's good basketball.
By the way, I was at the other day I was on the road, so I went to Pizzeria Uno and got, of course, what you get there, steak. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm at the bar, and I look up at the bar, and there's two screens facing me, and on both screens there were women's sporting